Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Mr. Car.
Shabbat shalom.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. As always, it's a pleasure seeing everybody here today on the Father's Set Apart Day. And we're going to give all esteem to the Father and have prayerfully a nice dynamic lesson, get some nice positive feedback so that I'll know that everybody is following along. This is going to be our sixth Torah portion. It's called Toldot, Parsha number 6. In the Hebrew word, or the English word would be generation, and the Hebrew word is actually Toldot, T-O-L-D-O-T. And before we get started, anybody have any testimonies they would like to share, how the Father has been merciful, loving, kind, generous, and just been that bridge for you over troubled waters? Anybody have any testimonies? Okay, no problem. I do. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Father, for waking us up this morning and
Hallelujah.
allowing us to get started, and then also allowing us to have a great Shavuot last week.
Oh, yeah. Hallelujah. That was beautiful.
And my family being immersed.
Hallelujah. Family that prays together stays together. Hallelujah. Okay, well, Mr. McCall, what we're going to do is go ahead with today's lesson, and we're going to stand up, face the east. I'm going to blow the shofar 7 times, and we'll have Zabud Yahoo to bring us in with prayer.
Here in this house, as well as online. We ask that you would baruch all of those who desire to make it that couldn't. Those who are on their way to get here, we pray that you would bring them in here safely. And those who are not going to be watching on Facebook, we pray that you will be just as real to them there as you are going to be to us here. We anticipate a meeting from you, because you said that wherever there's 2 or more gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. And Father, we are gathered here in your name, and we thank you and praise you for the things that are about to come. Pray that you would look in upon Moreh and his family, and ask that you would continue to meet them at the level of their needs, Father, as well as anyone else who might be going through a hard time, Father. And your son, Yahshua''s name, or say it, Yahushua''s name. I don't know why I couldn't get it. We pray, hallelujah. Hallelujah.
You said, so you're going to cover all bases. Yahushai, Yahusha, Yeshua, cover all zones.
You got to go all the way down.
Hey, listen, everything is told. And like I said, it's always a pleasure to be in the midst of my brothers and sisters. It's good to see everybody here today. And we're going to have a good time in Torah. All right. But as always, before we get started, we want to make sure that we give all esteem to the Father, Ab Yahuwah, for his love, his mercy, his kindness, his generosity. I just want to make sure that we always give the Father his proper due and respect his esteem for all the great things that he has done for his people the 12 tribes of Israel. So that it's always important that we give the Father all the esteem. And for sending his Son, Yahushua HaMashiach, to be that atoning sacrifice for the nation of Yashra'al. And like I said earlier, today's class is called Toldot, and it means generation, or the generation. If we added a hey at the beginning of it, it would be Ha Toldot, which would be the generation. So what we're going to do first and foremost, Mr. Cobb, we're going to go to the book of Proverbs, the 30th chapter, verse 4. And what I want to do first and foremost is to make sure that we understand the Father of Yahuwah. First and foremost, we must make sure that we understand him. What is our responsibility to the Father? Understanding or overstanding that the Father comes first before every single thing. I'm going to make that clear. The Father comes first before every single thing, because the Father is the ultimate provider, and being that he's the ultimate provider, it is our responsibility to always pay due diligence to the Father first and foremost. And a lot of times we don't do that. We're going to go to the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs, and we're going to go to the 30th chapter, and we're going to start with verse 1, and verse 1 down to 4. Let me just get it in the King James Version. And if we can get our good brother Shalomo to read that, I would gladly appreciate it. Proverbs, excuse me, I said Psalms?
You said Proverbs.
Proverbs, okay, so good, we're great, yeah. So we're on the book of, looking at Proverbs.
Verses 1 through 4?
Yeah, verses 1 through 4. Let me just get it right quick. Okay, ready to go.
All right. Proverbs 30, verse 1. The words of Agur, the son of Jacob, even the prophecy, the man spake unto Ithiel, even unto Ithiel and Ucal. Surely I am more brutish than any man, and have not the understanding of a man. I neither learned wisdom, nor have the knowledge of the whole set apart. Who hath ascended up into heaven?
So these are questions, all right? So let's make sure that we understand exactly what's going on when we're reading the book of Proverbs, the 30th chapter, verses 1 through 4. So, start that off for me one more time, please. 30th chapter, verses 1 through 4.
The words of Agur, the son of Jacob, even the prophecy, the man spake unto Ithiel, even unto Ithiel and Ucal. Surely I am more brutish than any man, and have not the understanding of a man. I neither learn wisdom, nor have the knowledge of the set apart. Who hath ascended up unto heaven, or descended?
Which is a question. Go ahead.
Who hath gathered the wind in his fist? Who hath bound the waters in a garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth?
So right now, if we was to stop right there, the question is being asked because we're trying to make sure that we always understand the importance of the Father of Yahuwah, and for him sending his Son, Yahushua HaMashiach, to be that atoning sacrifice for the nation of Yashra'al. So if we were to give credit where credit is due, the question is being asked, who hath ascended into Shamayim or heaven, or descended from Shamayim? Or who have gathered the winds in his fist? Who have bound the waters in a garment? Who have established all the ends of the earth? if someone was to ask you this particular question, who would you say was able to do all these things here? Okay, absolutely. Okay, read on.
What is his name, and what is his son's name, if thou canst tell?
Right. So I asked if everybody can make it accessible if they had the Q Bible. So anybody's able to read that fourth verse, the Q Bible. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you said the Sefer.
Yeah, I thought I put down the Q Bible too. Yeah. Okay. Do anybody have the Q Bible?
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I sure did. Shabbat Shalom, Mr. Cobb. Please bring if you have on the Sefer Bible, you'll be going over the book of Yashra'al, and if you can have the Q Bible accessible today at 9:05.
I don't know why. I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, Q Bible. So anyway,
You download it?
translations are going to be very, very important. All right. So what I like to try to do is to make sure that the Greek Septuagint is matching up with the Masoretic text. Now, verse 4 does not say exactly everything that's in the Masoretic text in verses 30 through 4. When it says, "What is his name and what is his son's name?" If thou canst tell. The way that it's read in the Greek Septuagint, it has, "Who has gone up to heaven and come down from heaven? Who has girded the winds in his bosom? Who has wrapped up the waters in a garment," which we know is be the Father, and he sent all of this, he gave all of this dominion to the Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. "Who has dominion of all the ends of the earth? What is his name? Or what is the name of his children?" Okay, which I find very, very interesting, which is different now from what you hear a lot of people begin to look at Proverbs 30 and 4, because they're looking for you now to identify the Father's name and the Son's name. And we know the Father's name is Yehovah and his Son's name is Yahushua. But we have to also understand too now is that the Masoretic text came into existence between the 8th and 9th century CE. All right, so this was after the death of the Mashiach and the Talmudims. I mean, all of those guys there. So this was way on down the line, and so we just want to make sure in reading this verse that we understand it correctly. Is that all esteem should be given to the Father. And if anybody was to know all these things, we need to know now what is his name and what is the name of his children. Now let's go to the book of Job, the 38th chapter. The 38th chapter. I just want to make sure that we are always doing a comparison when we read the scriptures. So whenever you get time, I'll put it down here on the board here. You just go into the Q Bible.
The Q Bible is also the Septuagint, or no?
Yeah, it's Septuagint. Greek Septuagint.
Was the Greek Septuagint?
Mm-hmm. Let's go to I'll read it. Okay, in the Greek Septuagint, the Q Bible, we have verse 1 through 4. I'm going to read. And after Elihu has ceased from speaking, the sovereign Yahuwah spoke to Job through the whirlwind and cloud, saying, "Who is this that hide counsel from me, and confines words in his heart, and thinks to conceal them from me?" We're talking about the Father now, all-knowing. "And who is this that hides counsel from me, and confines words in his heart, and thinks to conceal them from me? Gird thy loins like a man, and I will ask thee, and do thou answer me. where was thou or you when I founded the earth? Tell me now if thou hast knowledge. These particular verses that I'm bringing out is because the things that the Father is asking, for example, Job, we went to the book of Proverbs, these things we can't know. You know, we can't bind the wind in our fists. We can never know the fullness of the Father. The Father now has put himself in a position now where our finite minds need to be able to understand him. But these things are just examples of the Father, but not the Father himself. So we always want to make sure that we pay homage and proper respect to the creator of all things, the Father, because we should be able to see the Father in the magnificent works that he do. And a lot of times we take things for granted, and we never want to take things for granted, ever. So always make sure that you give all esteem to the Father. You can never hide anything from the Father. The Father gave us laws, statutes, and commandments to follow, and it is our responsibility to always follow the laws, statutes, and commandments, and always put the Father first. Absolutely nothing comes before the Father. Not family, not friends, not your jobs. Nothing comes before the Father. Because it's the Father now who's given us all these things. The Father gave you your job. He gave you your houses, your children, your wives, your husbands. The Father gave us all these things. So being that he gave us all these things, it is very important now for us now to always put the Father first. And so if anybody ever read the book of Job, Job is going through a whole lot of tribulation and everything like that. And so it got to the point where we see where Job gave up every single thing. And the reward at the end now is that he received everything back again now twofold. So there's always a reward when we put the Father first. That's all that we're trying to establish here. Now, I have here, to under the cause of all things, man should have been present at their origin. We, that finite creature, cannot begin to fathom the infinite wisdom of Yahuwah. And the best way that I can describe the Father, I've done this in other classes now, is that when we begin to look at the Father himself, Yahuwah, where we have the Yod, Hey, Hu, Hey, we have Yahuwah. The best way that we can do this now is I call, and it's commonly known as Ein Suf. And that's without form or without definition. And again, in order for the Father to dwell, or for us to understand the Mashiach, he had to make things tangible for us. Because again, the creation explains to us the Father. So in order to now reach to a higher level of understanding of the Father now, we now have to get into a level where we have to raise our level of consciousness. But for now, we know the Mashiach and the Father now, especially the Father now, is through the manifestation of his creation. If we go to the book of Yashra'al, the 40th chapter of the book of Isaiah, the 40th chapter, we're going to read verses 12 through 15. 12 through 15. Again, we're talking about giving all credence to the Father. This is a question again. Who hath measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and meted out heaven with the span, and comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure, and weigheth the mountains in scales, and the hills in the balance? This is a question. Who have directed the Ruach of Elohim, or ever been his counsel, and have taught him? With whom took he counsel, and who instructed him and taught him in the path of judgment, and taught him knowledge, and showed to him the way of understanding. Verse 15, behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the owls as a very little thing. So again, we want to make sure that we take absolutely nothing for granted. Nothing. Waking up this morning, having the ability to put one foot in front of the other, the ability now to inhale and to exhale, all these things, a lot of times we take for granted, but we should not take them for granted. Should not. Especially when we begin to see what the Father has done for the nation of Yashra'al by sending his son, Yahushua, again, Hamashiach, to be that atoning sacrifice for the nation of Israel. My argument today is that we are in debt, in serious debt, because of what the Father has done for the bride, the nation of Israel. Okay, let's go to the book of Psalms. The book of Psalms. If we can get, let's go with Yediah. If she can do Psalms 135 for me, please, verse 7.
Psalms 135, verse 7. He causes the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings from the rain, for the rain. He bringeth the wind out of his treasuries.
Wow. So when we begin to even look at the elements and see how the Father even has control and how he operates those things there, so more the reason why we should give all esteem to the Father. Let's go to the book of Exodus, the 3rd chapter, verses 13 to 15, and we're going to get Zabud Yahu to read that for us, please. Everybody see what we're doing here, right? Okay, all right. I just want to make, because a lot of times we're really not mindful, or we might forget how important it is for us to always give esteem to the Father for all the great things that he has done for us. Because as the scripture tells us that all the great things that the Father has done for the nation of Yashra'al, if he would have done those things for any other nation, they would have repented from their sins a long time ago. So we really don't give the Father enough credit and respect for the great things that he has done for us. The book of Exodus, the 3rd chapter, verses 13 to 15, we're going to have our good brother here, Zabud Yahu, to read that for us, please.
And Moses said unto Yahuwah, behold, when I come unto the children of Yashra'al, and say unto them, the Elohim of your fathers has sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? And Yahuwah said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Yashra'al, I am has sent me unto you. And Yahuwah said moreover unto Moses, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Yashra'al, Yahuwah, thy Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob, has sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations.
Hallelujah. Now watch how we're going to do this here now. We're going to read 13 and 15 again, because we must make sure that we identify two main characters here. And the character that we want to see what's going on in the book of Exodus, we want to be able to see the Father, and we want to be able to see the Son, the Mashiach, where we have Yahushua. In understanding now the redemptive role of Yahushua the Mashiach. Watch this. And Moses said unto Elohim, the word Elohim is plural. Behold, when I, singular, come into the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, the Elohim of your fathers have sent me unto you, and they shall say unto me, what is his name? All right, what is his name? What shall I say unto them, which is the children of Israel? Now this Elohim now, okay, said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am, okay, present tense, have sent me unto you. And Elohim said moreover unto Moses, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, Yahuwah Elohim. So, we have a Yahuwah the Father, and we have now a Yahuwah the Son. We have a Yahuwah the Son, all right? Now, this Yahuwah the Son now, he is the Elohim or the Yahuwah over all of the other Elohims. Because this word Elohim, again, is plural, and the one that's governing, or the head body of these Elohims is Yahuwah the Son. So nothing can be done now without side of the Father. We have Yahuwah the Son. The Yahuwah the Son now is working with an army of messengers, or commonly called angels, and he is the one that's heading over all of them. So the one that's actually now redeeming the nation of Israel, who Moses is referring to now, is actually Yahushua, who's acting now on behalf of the Father, and the Mashiach now is working through Elohim, his army or his host. All right, so I just wanted to make sure that we make no mistakes in giving the proper respect to the way that the scriptures has everything lined up for us to do. Because proper respect is always very important. Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, verse 58. If we can get Solomon or Shlomo to read that for us, please.
Deuteronomy 28.
58. Deuteronomy 28, 58.
All right.
Okay, ready to go.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 58. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, Yahuwah thy Elohim.
Yahuwah thy Elohim. So it is always important that we understand the name. The name is Yahuwah, and his son name is Yahushua. So we have two Yahuwahs here now. What I'm trying to get here at is that we have Yahuwah the Father, and we have Yahuwah the Son. And Yahuwah the Son is orchestrating every single thing that he's doing now is through his army, which is the word Elohim, which are his messengers. So I pray that we got a good understanding of what's going on there. The first scripture that we want to get to now, because we're going to get on into the lesson here, is the book of Bereshit, or Genesis, the 25th chapter, verse 19. And we're going to look a little bit more into this word Toldot, which means, anybody know what the word Toldot means? Not everybody say it at one time.
Generations.
Okay, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Now, 25:19, it says, and these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. So off the bat, this is the generation now of Abraham, and the next son that's in line now is Isaac. The first word of interest is the word generations, and it's the Strong's number 8435. We need a definition for the word generation. Anybody have it? Anybody know?
It is Toldot. Descent, that is family, or
Right.
generations.
Exactly. So it's the Strong's number 8435, and it's the Hebrew word Toldot. Let me just write that down right quick, because that's going to be very, very important. These generations. Now I'm going to see if everybody is thinking here. All right. We have the Hebrew word Toldot. The English translation is generation, and you spell that now with the tau. We have the u. We have the lamed. We have the dalet, and we have the hay, and we have Toldot. This is Toldot. Generations. So let me give you some more definitions here. We have descendants, the results of Abraham, the proceedings of Abraham, the genealogies of Abraham, the account of men and their descendants, genealogy, list of one's descendants, one's contemporaries, course of history, begetting or account of heaven. And that's the Hebrew word study, translation, pronunciation, etymology, and grammar of the word. The Browns-Driver-Briggs definition is plural. It means descent, that is family, history, birth, and generations. Now, I also want everyone to read, I'm going to read that in Hebrew, and watch how this, it goes in Hebrew. It's a little bit different. But again, nobody has their the Q Bible. Anybody have it in Hebrew though? Genesis 25:19. I just want to make sure everybody is kind of like following along.
You talking about the Sefer?
Any Hebrew, it'll say the same thing.
Oh, I have it here.
See here and catch this now. Verse 25:19. We have we're going to read it through the vowel points that they have set up here in the Masoretic text. We have Ele, Toldot, Yitzyak, Ben Avarim, Holid et Yitzyak, which means, and these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. This is what I want. Okay. Abad, you say you have it, right?
The Sefer?
No, the Genesis, the 25th chapter, verse 19 in Hebrew. Or can you, what do you have for the word begot?
Begot?
Mm-hmm. Because you're not going to be able to find it in the Sefer.
The Hebrew word may be Yalad.
Right, okay, we're talking about children here.
Yeah.
Watch this. Watch this in the Hebrew language. Okay, we have the word Toldot. Okay, we have the tet, the u, the lamed, the dalet, and the hay. We have here, for the word begot, we have,
Y'all laugh?
Yalad.
not in the Hebrew, we have the hay, we have the u, we have the lamed, we have the yod, and we have the dalet. Okay, and this word here now is huled. Okay, I'll write it down here. We have huled. How do you have this here? Y-I-Y-D. Huled. Now, what's important with this is we're going to take our time with this. The word huled means cause, okay, or to cause. So the word Isaac means to laugh. the word Abraham means father of nations. We now have the baton being passed from Abraham now to Isaac. Isaac now is a continuation of a generation. So we have Abraham to Isaac to Jacob. But the word Toldot now means cause. So the cause that Abraham has, this cause now has been placed upon Isaac to now take up now from where his father left off at now in this whole line of genealogy. Genealogy is extremely, extremely important. All right, so I just want everybody to see that. Go to Genesis now, the 36th chapter. I want to show something here. Genesis, the 36th chapter, verse 36, verse 1. It's going to all make sense. Let's see here. Genesis, I think it's verse 1. I got to just double check. So I'm going to give everybody a heads up.
The
Next.
answer is,
The next time we go in, we're reading, I don't know if anybody got a chance to do it last night. We wrote down that we can just go over Genesis, the 25th chapter to Genesis, the 20th chapter. That way, it's not like a surprise, because it really doesn't do anybody good if I go over a lesson and then ask questions without giving the person the heads up. Say, listen, you know what? Go over these couple of chapters here, so that way everybody can stay on the same page here. So I wouldn't expect anybody to know if I never gave you the chapters to read prior to the lesson. But it says now here, now these are the generations of Esau. Okay? The generations of Esau. I'm going to read that in Hebrew and watch what happens here. Watch what happens. We have the word generations Toldot. Okay? We have Toldot. But watch what happens. For Esau, they have the word generation spelled this way. We have the Tau, we have the Lamed, we have the Dalet, and we have the U placed here, and then we have the Hay. That's important. Okay, real important. Because both of these words here means generations. I'm going to leave that there for a minute, all right? So, in Isaac's generation, we have it spelled this way. In Esau, we have it spelled that way. Okay. Let's do this here. I want to make sure everybody is able to get this here. Genealogy is important, all right? We have, how you spell it? E-A-L-O-G-Y. The reason why this is so important is because we have genealogy looked at two ways. We have natural, all right, and then we have nurtured. All right? Natural and nurtured. Natural is going to be dealing with genetics. Nurtured has to do with the way that a child is raised. Again, genealogy, and I'll put here verses. So genealogy can be determined now by the human genome. And genealogy is also defined by the way that a person is nurtured. Now, what is the most important thing? This is a question. What is the most important thing in genealogy according to Scripture in all life? Yeah, what is the most important thing in genealogy according to scripture and in all life? This is based upon now what we've been talking about so far. We're talking about Abraham genealogy. And he's going down from Abraham to Isaac. Looking at Abraham, Abraham had a specific wife. A specific wife. We have Isaac now, who's going to take on a specific wife also. So I pretty much gave you the answer. What is the most important thing in genealogy according to scripture and in all life? Bloodline, right. Choosing a mate. From beginning all the way to the end is always about choosing a mate. And not just choosing any mate, but choosing the proper mate. So I talked about so many times before, it has a lot more to do with he's tall, dark, and handsome, or whatever your fancy might be. It has a lot to do with now what this person now can actually now contribute to the family. What is your role and responsibility? Because everybody has a role and a responsibility, the man and the woman. So let's now go to the book of Bereshit, the 15th chapter, verses 1 through 2.
What chapter, I'm sorry?
Genesis.
No, what chapter?
The 15th chapter, excuse me. I want some feedback on this. I've asked about this, but wasn't really able to get any feedback on this. Because again, genealogy, again, is extremely, extremely important. But whatever your taste in men and women are, you must make sure that you look at the family. The family is going to be very, very important. The book of Genesis, the 15th chapter, because marriage is about bringing families together. We have now in the Masoretic text, this is how this is read. And after these things, the word of Yahuwah came unto Abram. His name is Abram at the time, not Abraham, which is going to be very important. In a vision saying, fear not, Abraham, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Sovereign, O Lord Yahuwah, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless? He doesn't have any children. And the steward of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abraham said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the fourth verse, and behold, the word of Yahuwah came unto me, saying, This shall not be thine heir. That word heir is going to be extremely, extremely important. Heirship. The heir, all of the personal belongings, the inheritance goes to the heir. But the heir must be according to the seed. Genealogy is extremely important. You just don't give your inheritance to anybody. Now, watch how this is read now in the Greek Septuagint. I'm just going to read verses 1 through 2. And after these things, the word of Yahuwah came to Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I shield thee, thy reward shall be very great. And Abram said, Master, O Lord, what will thou give me, whereas I am departing without a child? But the son of Mesech, and my homeborn female slave, this Eliezer of Damascus, is my heir. And Abram said, I am grieved since thou hast given me no seed, but my homeborn servant shall succeed me. What do you make of that? Abram is telling the father that he has no heir, no child. But he's also saying now is that the one that stands in place to inherit that inheritance as an heir, is a woman by the is the son. The woman name is Mesik, a homeborn female slave, and his name is Eliezer of Damascus. What do we do with that? Because heirship or an inheritance now goes through lineage. Abraham is saying now is that there's someone now inside of his household. Her name is Mesik. She has a son named Eliezer. He stands in line to inherit everything that I have.
So he's not even though he went into her, he's not looking at this as his actual son.
That's my point.
The woman's from another nation.
Right, exactly. This is the thing here now, what I'm trying to share. Genealogy. The way that it works is this way. Eliezer is not going to be the heir. He can't be the heir. Abraham is actually now praying to the Father about a particular woman. His name is Abram at the time now. It's not Abraham, it's Abram. We're talking about genealogy. We're talking about genes. We're talking about lineage. Mesik is not of Abraham's lineage. So when he said from the loins of Abraham, the loins of Abraham now, if we were to go back, because we talked about this last week, we have Abraham's father as Terah. We have then Haran. And we have now Nahor. These men are very, very important because they are all of the same lineage. These men had daughters. Okay? So Abraham was married to Sarah. The proper lineage now from both individuals now, this is where the bloodline is going to come from. It's not going to come from a slave girl. Okay? The same way that Abraham now also had sex with Hagar. Okay? And the word Hagar is the stranger. That's what the word Hagar means. It means the stranger. Remember, Moreh has been bringing out the word ger. So this word here now is Hagar. It just means that she's a stranger. The only way that the heirship can lead from one person to the next, they would have to be of the same genealogy. The person that the person that Abraham is actually inquiring about is Sarah, for Sarah to have a child. We are good. Okay,
I have
hallelujah.
a question on that.
Sure.
So if Abraham is not considering him his son, he's considering his son, but he's not considering him as the heir.
As the heir.
As the heir. So he is considered his son. He is, well, I guess he would. No, he's not Israelite yet.
No, his name is Abram at the time. And this is what's interesting about this whole thing. When the father told Abraham to sacrifice his son, he said, your only son.
Right.
But Abraham had another son.
Mm-hmm.
So why would the father tell him now to sacrifice his only son when he had another son? So we're talking about, again.
You talk about the natural.
Right, so we're talking about here now.
Natural versus the
Well, actually, we're going to show that where these two now actually work hand in hand.
Right.
But what I'm trying to share here now is that the importance of the Israelite man and the Israelite woman is what I'm trying to share here now. And the way that it goes now is that if there's no children, what happens now is that when we begin to look at a lot of the ancient Sumerian cultures and things like that, the land of Ur, because this is where Abraham came from. And so a lot of those practices that were being done there, we also see in the scripture. Mm-hmm. If there was no children, what would happen now is that the man would now take on a concubine. He would go into his slave girl, whatever the case might be, in order to make sure that there's always a lineage. But now, if the first wife had a child now, if she had a child, especially of the same biological seed, that child now became the heir. He is the rightful heir to the throne. So what I'm trying to share here now is that Abraham is referring to now his genealogy. What's going to come from his loins, because Abraham and Sarah are actually now related.
Right.
They are related. Because Abraham said, listen, this is, we have the same fathers, but different mothers. Okay, that's what I just wanted to share right quick. And we have some more scriptures to share with this whole thing also. Let's go to the book of Bereshit, the 24th chapter, verses 1 through 4. Genesis, the 24th chapter, verses 1 through 4. And Abram was old and well stricken in age, and the Father had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said unto his eldest servant of his house, which is Eliezer, that ruled over all that he had, he says, I pray thee, put thy hand under my thigh, and I will make thee swear by Yahuwah, the Elohim of heaven, the Elohim of earth, that thou should not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites of whom I dwell. Genealogy is very, very important. This is the reason why I said earlier, it is more in detail based upon just the way that a person looks. We are bringing families together. And the human genome, okay, is very, very important. So we have now with genealogy, we have natural, which is the human genome, and we have now another way that can affect genealogy now is the way that a person is nurtured. Mm-hmm. So he's telling now, he's telling his servant, we have Eliezer here now. Eliezer here, he is now the ruler of everything that Abraham has and everything like that. So he's telling him now not to take a daughter of the daughters of the Canaanites, but thou shalt go into my country, into my kindred, and take a wife unto my son Isaac. Deborah, the 7th chapter, verses 1 through 4. If somebody could read that for me, please. There's a scripture that I also want to bring out. Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter, verses 7, 1 through 4.
Deuteronomy 7, 1 through 4?
Yes.
You want one of us to read it?
Yes, please.
Just start, or we're waiting for you?
You can go ahead.
When Yahuwah the Elohim shall bring thee unto the land whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Geshurites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Paserites, and the Hivitites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when Yahuwah the Elohim shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. And thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them, thy daughters thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter thou take unto thy son, for they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other Elohims. So will the anger of Yahuwah will be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly. But thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire. For thou art
Just
a
1 through 4?
Oh, 1 through 4. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Okay, all right. The point that I just wanted to make here now is that, again, the Father told us now not to make marriages with the Canaanites. And he made mention of 7 nations. And so the reason why, anybody know why the Father told us not to deal with those 7 nations there?
Because they would turn their son
Right.
away from Yahuwah.
So we're dealing now with natural, the human genetics, or we dealing with now the way that they would be nurtured. Because genealogy now can affect a person now through the human genome and the way that a person is nurtured. So what we just read here now, the Father's telling us now not to deal with those 7 nations. It will fall under which category? The human genome would be affected, or the way that the child is nurtured would be affected? Both, right, absolutely. But also, too, now, what might take precedence in all of this now is that the reason why is because the other nations now, they were following other quote-unquote gods. And so now, when we begin to marry other nations now, what would happen now that those children now will be nurtured in the way of the other nations. And the Father never wanted the children of Israel nurtured through the Elohims of the other nations. So it will affect the natural genetics of it, the way that they practice things, because we do understand too now is that those 7 nations now were also considered giants. They were considered giants, but we also again want to make sure that everybody understands now is that the way that a child is nurtured can also affect the human genome. And we see this happening now is how they were actually doing certain things once the woman became pregnant during slavery. And they kept the woman under a whole lot of stress. A whole lot of stress. Now, the woman would see her husband castrated. She would see her man quartered. All these things that she would see happening to her husband that did have an effect on the baby. And so this whole way of programming our children on how to fear the adversary was all started back when we stopped following the laws, statutes, and commandments. But genealogy, again, is very important. Let's go to the book of, in Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus, the 26th chapter, verse 20. We're almost done. Ecclesiasticus, the 26th chapter, verse 20. Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha 26 verse, I'll read it, verse 19 and 21. My son, keep the flower of thy age sound, and give not thy strength to strangers. When thou hast gotten a fruitful possession throughout all the field, sow it with thy own seed, trusting in the goodness of thy stock, so that your race which thou leavest shall be magnified, having confidence of their good descent. All right, that's self-explanatory here now, is that we're not supposed to be giving our strength over to strangers. So again, genealogy is very, very important. We go to the book of Toldot, the 4th chapter. I'm going to read verses 12 to 13. I'm going to speed it up here a little bit. Again, this is the book of Toldot, the 4th chapter, verses 12 to 13. Beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of your fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe. For we are the children of the prophets Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even they that all married wives of their own kindred, and were blessed in their children, and their seed shall inherit the land. Now therefore, my son, love thy brethren, and despise not in thy heart thy brethren, the sons and daughters of thy people, and not taking a wife of them. For in pride is destruction, and much trouble, and lewdness is decay, and great want. For lewdness is the mother of famine. So what I'm sharing here now, in the scripture here now again, is that genealogy is extremely, extremely important. We're bringing families together. So the way that it worked before, in order for a marriage to take place, it was a responsibility now of that father to investigate the family. He needed to know everything that he needed to know about that daughter, because again, you're bringing these households together, and you must make sure that they're following Torah. You must make sure that, and vice versa. It is also the daughter's mother's responsibility to also now investigate and make sure that the potential husband's family is also following Torah. So Torah is very, very important. We read last week now during Shavuot, Exodus the 20th chapter, verses 1 through 10, when we talked about now what we call the ketubah. Before any marriage can take place, everybody must agree. Everybody must agree. That man and that woman must agree that nothing comes before the father. Absolutely nothing. That's the reason why I went there first. But this whole thing with genealogy is very important, and I'll go ahead and let us know what's going on. Isaac married Rebekah. Esau now, because he was the firstborn, he did not follow the instructions of his father Abraham. So we have now, we have Isaac, we have Esau. Esau now, when we begin to look at his generation is tainted because he did not follow the instructions. Esau married Canaanites, and he also married Ishmael's daughter. So he married into the Arab family, and he also married into the Canaanite family. So with that being done now, that we see this letter here now, being moved from this position to the latter position. We able to see this here now? I mean, this is not the Remez level here. This is, we're going into like a little science here now, and I just want to make sure everybody understands. They both say Toldot, because we have the Peshat, the Remez, the Drash, and the Sod level. So this is going to take a lot of looking into and research, but I just wanted everybody to see now is that with Isaac, the word generation is spelled with a tau, a u, the lamed, the daleth, and a hey. When it comes to Esau's tainted genealogy, because he did not follow the instructions of his father Isaac, it's spelled with the tau. We have the lamed, the daleth, the hu, and the hey that way. So there is a difference now in the genealogy between Isaac and in the genealogy of
So are you
Esau.
saying that those particular acts that they did is what changed the genealogy? Or are you saying that it was that way all from birth?
Very good question. What I'm sharing here now is that this is the proper genealogy this way. When we follow the instructions that the Father gave us, we went to the book of Toldot, the 4th chapter. When you go outside the instructions of the Father, the genealogy becomes corrupted. So we as parents now, it is always important for us to understand now is that we follow the genetics, we follow the instructions that the Father gave us from the very beginning on how a marriage is supposed to take place. And follow the instructions now. This is the proper way that you leave an inheritance. When we begin to look at genealogy, when it becomes corrupt, like what Esau and what Ishmael did, is spelled this way. This is the proper way. They both spell Toldot, but again, the letters get changed around. And when you change it, the adversary, he's always changing and he's always mixing. Genealogy is important. Even the animal kingdom knows that. If you have 2 male lions and there's a female lion, The male lion, he would get to the point now where he's getting old. There's going to be a younger lion now from another clan. He's going to come now and try to take over. He wants the females. But in order to keep his genealogy running, the new lion is going to kill off all of the baby cubs. Because his job now, he wants to secure his lineage. Well, it's pretty much about the same way with Israel. The animal kingdom, the natural way of things, the way that things run, even they know the importance of genealogy. You don't mix seeds. You don't see the lion trying to mate with the tiger trying to mate with the elephants. You don't see that confusion. You see that confusion amongst people. The Father chose the nation of Yashra'al. We are a seed. Sarah is important. Once Sarah died, there was someone now that sat in Sarah's seat, okay, in this authoritative role as a female. Her name was Rebecca. They're all coming from the same lineage. What I'm trying to share here today now is that Western society now has tricked us so bad where they say genealogy doesn't matter anymore. Seed doesn't matter. You can be intimate with whoever it is that you want to be intimate with. It doesn't matter. God loves everybody, but not according to Scripture. It's not there. It is very important for us to make sure that we understand, especially when we have children. This is again about keeping Israel together. Israel, Eliezer, put your hands under my scrotum, because that's where the seeds now, the sperm cells are produced. So it's nothing homosexual or anything like that. But I'm promising now that through the seed, through the bloodline now, is that you must keep the bloodline pure. Don't take for my son Isaac any of the children of the Canaanites. Don't do it. But again, we've gotten so relaxed here. So relaxed. So when we have children, it is very important for us to understand the genealogy and who our sons and daughters are actually coming together with. We need to make sure, because it can be a problem.
So again,
A real problem.
What do you do about the people who say that if well, I'll give for example, Joseph. What do you do about somebody like Joseph?
Joseph, he married the high priest's daughter in the city of On. Her name was Potiphar. He was the high priest. And we have now his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, being adopted into the family. So we do, but again, it doesn't take away from the man, because he do carries the seed. But we do have another situation where there was an Israelitish son. There was a woman who was an Israelite, but she had married an Egyptian. And remember, it made mention that son, he spoke blasphemous words against the father, and Moses went to inquire about the father, what should we do with this son? The point that I'm trying to make here now is that we have, the man carries the seed. Okay, that is what it is. Not saying again that the woman has nothing to do with it, because she does. Because we have 23 chromosomes from the man, and again, 23 chromosomes from the woman. So these 46 chromosomes make up a human. But we begin to look at now how the father is keeping a record of seed. The man carries the seed. When we see now a disturbance in Israel, where we have an Israelite woman now married to an Egyptian man. And this son now, okay, this product now of this, I'm going to call it cross-contamination. I'm going to call it that, all right? That's probably a real harsh thing to do. But anyway, the judgment was now is that son was to be put to death. But not just him now, even if an Israelite blasphemed against the father now, the sentence would also have been for him. But the point that I'm trying to make here again, the same mistake happened with Solomon, when Solomon now also married all of these strange women. Strange women. And these strange women now got to the point where when they had children, they began to nurture their children now, not according to Torah, but according to now the gods that they were worshiping. So again, we read in the book of Tobit, and we read it one more time, and then we'll move on, and the questions we'll pick it up back again, all right? We have Tobit and Tobias, okay? He's telling his son, beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe. For we are the children of the prophets, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even they that all married wives of their own kindred, and were blessed in their children, and their seed shall inherit the land. Now therefore, my son, love thy brethren, and despise not in thy heart thy brethren, the sons and daughters of thy people, and not taking a wife of them. For in pride is destruction, and much trouble, and in lewdness is decay, and great want, for lewdness is the mother of famine. Now, being that the human genome or the genealogy is polluted, all right, what did the Mashiach's genealogy consist of? Moshe and I, we had talked about this briefly a couple of weeks ago. But the Mashiach's genealogy consisted of lying, incest, murdering, thievery, idolatry, adultery, etc. All of this was in this bloodline. All of it. Now, how did the Mashiach redeem us from all these curses? Because all this is in his genealogy. Incest, lies, murders, all of this is there.
You mean, how did he redeem us from all of this?
Yes.
Well, it's going to cut me off and steal my thunder. Just stole it all.
Well,
Go ahead, say it. You just might as well say it.
okay, the answer is that we go to the book of Matthew, the 8th chapter, verse 17. If we can get Zabul Yahu to read that for us, please. How did the Mashiach redeem us from all these curses? Matthew, the 8th chapter, verse 17. It is so important that we do a thorough background investigation with everybody that we come in contact with.
Right.
Yes, Matthew 8:17, excuse me. Matthew 8:17.
That it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Elias. I mean, by, is it Elias?
Yes,
Isaiah. That prophet saying himself took our infirmities and bare our sicknesses.
right. So who's the himself?
That was shot.
Okay, so the Mashiach took all of our infirmities now. He took our infirmities and he bared our sickness. Now, if we can have your Okoti now, if you can go to the book of Yashra'al, the 53rd chapter, verses 4 and 5. Because it said it's spoken of in the book of Isaiah, right? So if we can get Yediah to do Isaiah the 53rd chapter, verses 4 and 5. Because that Ruach is flowing between those two, both of them, and they're connecting so heavy where they're both giving out the answers. So that's the way it's supposed to be. This is what happens once you get immersed.
You said the answers was right.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Isaiah 53, verse 4. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Yahuwah, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed.
Hallelujah. The book of Hebrews, if we can get Yaakov, Brother James, to read that for us, please. Hebrews 9:25. 9:25.
Hebrews 9:25. Nor yet that he should offer himself often, as the high priest entereth into the set apart place every year with blood of others. For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. But now once in the end of the world hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself.
Hallelujah. So it's through the redemptive role of the Mashiach. All of this now in this bloodline, we begin to look at the book of Matthew. You begin to look at some of those people there. Yeah, there was a whole lot going on in the nation of Israel. The Father took on our infirmities, nailed it to the cross. And so now we should have a clear path in total obedience to the Father. I'm going to read 1 John 3 and 5. 1 John 3 and 5. And you know that he was manifested to take away our sins. Okay? And in him is no sin. No sin at all. No sin. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop. All right? I'm going to stop here, and we'll pick up the next time the importance of just genealogy and what's going on with Abraham, Sarah, the father now passing the baton, because we now have Sarah dying at the age of 125. At 125 years old, we have to talk about that. What does that mean? Abraham died, I think it was at 175 years old. We have the situation now where Rebecca is going through a very troublesome birth, or during the 7 months of her being pregnant, she's going through a whole lot of stuff. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands genealogy. You must investigate who you're looking to now to have your children. It is so important. You know what? For example, I'm going to make this real quick. Being that there's so much corruption inside of Israel today, me personally, I would suggest when a man and woman comes together that they must do some testing to see whether or not this person has any type of sexually transmitted disease. Okay, because again, there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on out here. That woman needs to inquire that man's past history, whether he was into homosexuality or all of that stuff. It is extremely important, because every man, I keep saying, has his own germ. And these germs now, once they're released inside of a woman, they stay there for a while. Okay? And these are called spirits. Everybody has a spirit, all right? So you don't want a man going into you, all right, and he has a whole lot of baggage behind him. And you don't want to be dealing with a woman now who also has a whole lot of baggage with her too. All right, so again, it is very important that we ask about the sexual history. What are you able to do now to contribute to this marriage? Because this is serious.
It's good.
Because we're hoping now to bring children into the world. I need to know your mindset. And so again, you go to the word nurtured. You want a woman now, okay, who's going to now be of a particular genealogy, the right genome, and we also want to know that she's able now to nurture the children properly that you hope for her to bring forth. Because you don't want a woman now who hates you, who has a problem or an issue with you, because while she's pregnant, all of this energy now, this disagreeable energy, is going to go through that umbilical cord, and you're going to, that boy or that woman is not going to like that daddy too tough. You might have a problem. So in ending, if anybody has any questions, again, I just wanted to share again the instructions that the Father gave the nation of Israel, when we begin to look at Isaac, okay, and it talked about the generations of Isaac, with the Hebrew word Toldot, we have the word Toldot spelled this way. When it comes to Esau, it's spelled this way. This generation, when it's spelled this way now, is a corruptible genealogy. We should not be mixing with corruption.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's good.
Abraham was adamant about it. Isaac was adamant about it. Tobit and Tobias, that whole situation there, we're not supposed to mix the seeds. Just simply not supposed to mix it at all. Because when you mix the seeds now, we have a situation is now, how do you now divide the inheritance? How do you do it? Especially, she's a female. An Israelite woman marries an Egyptian, and she's allotted land. If something was to happen to her, and they have children together, the landmarks with Israel you can't remove. Those children can't be the sole heirs of that land. That land was given to the nation of Israel. This is the reason why the daughters of, I forgot the brother's name, the guy didn't have any sons, but he had all daughters. But the only way that those daughters now can get the land, they had to marry their father's brother's sons. That's the only way they can get it. So, Mishmachar, are there any questions? Again, we go over the rest of it with Isaac and Rebekah, and how that fight, that struggle was going on between Esau and Jacob. The fight that was going on between, look at Genesis, the 16th chapter again too, because there's a lot that's going on between Hagar and Sarah. Okay, there's some things that Sarah didn't do correctly, and I'm going to also show too now is that Hagar, the stranger, she also had an intimate relationship with the father too. She had a very intimate relationship with the father because the father heard her. He heard her, and she was also blessed. But, you know, he's going to be a wild man, though. But the father did hear her.
But didn't another reason why there's a difference in the spelling because Esau sold his birthright?
Yes, he sold his birthright. And so, and this is where we get into now even the word, what the word Rebecca means. Okay, it means ensnarer. So when you begin to look at genealogy again, we look at Laban and we look at Rebecca. There were some slicksters, all right? Because we see now Rebecca also taking advantage of her husband in his old age, where they tricked Isaac, and she didn't have to do that because the father had already told her that the older, was going to serve the younger. She didn't have to do that. All right. So again, but we do see now how the women of old, our ancient, our foremothers, they were very, very particular now about seed and inheritance. Even my grandmother, when she was alive, she would always say, to my aunt, it's time for you basically to get up out of here and give me some grandbabies.
Okay.
And so that was always the thing that I heard my grandparents say. You got to give me some grandbabies. Where my grandbabies at? It's going to get a little bit sensitive the next time, but as long as we stick with the scriptures, we should be all good. All right. So that's today's lesson, Mr. Carr. And are there any questions? Anything anybody wants to add or anything like that? Brother Moshe, you might have to get rid of the Edomite woman there. I'm only messing with you. Only messing with you, brother. Only messing with you. Yeah, only messing with you. But we're doing the best that we can in this tribulation here that we're under. Just recognize the times that we're living in. And if there's no question. That's gonna be about it.
All we have, all of them.
That's gonna be about it, Mr. Carr. So we We're going to stand up, face the east. I'm going to blow the shofar 7 times, and we'll have a sister. We'll have a Koti to end us with prayer. Everybody is going to contribute to the walk here.
Heal. Okay, now.
Hallelujah.